Thomas goes crash. This story is about the time I thought I could manage without my driver. I set off by myself one morning and quickly rolled into trouble. Thomas the tank engine had worked on the Fat Controller's railway for many years. He had 2 carriages, Annie and Clarabelle, and his very own branch line. Thomas was a really useful engine. One day on Sodor, Thomas was busy at work. He stopped at Wellsworth Station in just the right place. "You could almost manage without me, Thomas," laughed his driver. Thomas felt proud. He didn't know that his driver was only joking. "I don't need a driver anymore," Thomas boasted in the sheds that night. "Don't be silly," peeped Percy. "I never go anywhere without my driver," said Toby. "I'd be too frightened." "Well, I'm not scared," said Thomas. "You'll see." The next morning, Thomas woke up early. "I'll show those silly Stevies," he smiled. "My driver says I don't need him. I'll go out by myself, then I'll stop and wheesh to wake them up." Thomas rolled forwards, feeling very clever, but really he was only moving because someone had forgotten to put on his brakes. Thomas tried to wheesh, but he couldn't. He tried to stop, but he couldn't. He just kept rolling along. Straight ahead was the station master's house. The station master was inside, about to have breakfast. "Cinders and ashes!" cried Thomas, and he shut his eyes. The house rocked, glass smashed, plaster and dust flew everywhere. The station master was furious. His wife was cross too. "Look at our breakfast," she said. "Now we'll have to make some more." Workmen came to prop up the house with strong poles. Then they laid rails through the garden. Thomas felt terrible. He didn't dare say a word the whole time. Soon Donald and Douglas arrived. "Don't worry, Thomas, we'll get you back on the rails," they called. Puffing hard, they hauled Thomas to safety. Thomas's buffers were badly bent and bits of fence were stuck to them. The twins laughed as they steamed away. Thomas was in disgrace. The Fat Controller came to see him. "What a lot of trouble you have caused," he boomed. "I'm sorry, sir," said Thomas quietly. "You must go to the steamworks to be mended," the Fat Controller went on. "Yes, sir," Thomas sighed. "Meanwhile, Diesel will do your work," the Fat Controller told Thomas. Diesel, sir," Thomas spluttered. "Diesels stay in their sheds until they are needed," the Fat Controller explained. "They never roll off to breakfast in station masters' houses." Thomas set off to the steamworks, a sadder and wiser engine. He had learnt 2 things: never to leave the sheds without his driver, and that breakfast was not for engines.